Hello, I'm James,
Hi, I'm Jimmy,
and welcome to A Job Done Well.
the podcast that helps you improve your performance and enjoyment at work. Well, good afternoon, James.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I am fabulous. Thank you very much.
Happy New Year, James.
Happy New Year. How was your New Year?
It was fantastic.
Yeah?
I was swinging from chandeliers and having a great time. How about you?
Similar.
We hope you had a fantastic festive period and a happy New Year. We are starting 2025 on a high. We are joined by Patricia Brooks. Welcome, Patricia.
Thanking you. Good to be here.
And Patricia is going to do what we failed to do last year, which was talked about strengths, but really help bring to life the importance of playing to your strengths and how you can maximize your performance and your enjoyment of work, which is what we're all about. I'll let you do a proper intro, but Patricia and I met a few years ago when we were doing some mentoring work together.
We do.
Patricia, tell us all about you and what you do.
Yeah, so I run a consultancy called Geneva Pearl, which I've been running for just coming up to 6 years, actually. I'm a high performance strength coach, which means that I work with individuals, teams, and organizations to help them maximize their potential, to get what they need from themselves, from each other, and just create very best working environments. And I do that all from the basis of natural talents and strengths.
Excellent. And we should add two things there. First off, we need job titles like yours, Patricia, high performance strength coach.
Friendly high
That is-
performance strengths coach.
Yeah, that is when you introduce yourself, people are going to be interested, you know.
Yes.
We should also tell people, where are you?
So I am in Grenada in the Caribbean. So I brought my business to Grenada. We were planning to spend 12 weeks of the year here anyway. And I thought, if I'm going to spend 12 weeks in Grenada, I'm not ready to retire. What can I do? So I did my little bit of research and I brought the coaching element and the culture change element of my business to Grenada. So so I'm in sunny Grenada outside. It's about 30 degrees. It is, the sun's coming out. Yeah, it's lovely here. How about you? Where are you?
Enough of that. I mean, we have a global audience, but the majority of our people are in the cold UK at the moment, and it's going to be freezing miserable whenever they are listening to this podcast. So they can imagine you in sunny Grenada. Well, thank you for joining us. And maybe we could kick off and you could just tell us a bit about what made you become a strength coach and why playing to your strengths is important.
Yes, I was on the career ladder, doing lots of different jobs, trying lots of different things, different experiences. And as I was trying to develop and grow in my career, I was finding that I was always stopped in one way or another. You know, I felt like I was being blocked or told to be something and do something that wasn't me. So I would go chasing all of these things and I would study, I would take different jobs, I would do everything that I needed. But I actually realized that I wasn't quite enjoying that element of the job that they were telling me I needed. So I kind of sat back and kind of thought, do you know what? I'm not loving this stuff. What am I good at? What are the things that I love doing? Once I was able to identify the things that I love doing, then I set about finding how I could get more jobs with that. When I was managing teams, I'd be telling people to play to their strengths. Or when I was coaching team leaders, I'd be saying, yeah, but if that person's good at that, why don't you let them do that in the team? I was always very interested in why aren't we using people for the stuff that they are good at, rather than trying to make them good at other things that they absolutely hate. So that's how I got into strengths and working with people's strengths. I think it's just so important.
Yeah, and I think it really resonated with James and I. We did an episode on this last year. And we talked about playing to your strengths does two things. One, it just makes life a little bit more enjoyable because you're doing what you're good at, rather than the default way organizations work is, what are you not good at? You got to improve that. And it's soul destroying. Yeah. So playing to your strengths is enjoyable. And as a result of playing to your strengths, funny enough, you perform better.
100%. And this is what I realized before I discovered strengths and Clifton Strengths. but it cemented all of that. I was assuming before I knew there was scientific research behind it. I was saying, well, this should work, and hypothesizing and kind of thinking, yeah, that might work. But I was finding people were just happier. And your strengths apply to your professional work and your personal work. So once you know what those are, then you can learn how to push them and apply them and use them all. And then be just, well, I say living your best life on purpose. That's going to be my strapline. Let's not bumble and fumble into hoping and wishing and by luck that we're going to be doing things that we love. Why don't you intentionally find the things that you love doing? So yeah, it's great.
Well, it's interesting, though, that you say there's scientific research behind it, because there's quite a dollop of common sense here as well, isn't there? Why on earth you would employ somebody and then give them a good kicking about the things they're not good at and then force them to do it? I mean, it'd be a special type of student, wouldn't it? So it's
a special type of stupid. I like that. But that happens, I would say, 99% of the time.
And just the difference between, or the addition that we're bringing today over what we did previously in our original episode is that point you make, which is the science behind it and the expertise that you had, whereas James and I were just coming in from the point of view, well, this is common sense, isn't it? Why wouldn't you do this? And we were trying to help people. You've actually got a way of thinking about strengths and leveraging strengths,
Absolutely.
which I think is really important to share with people today.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been a bit of a people watcher. And as you were just teeing that up there, Jimmy, I thought, I know that one of your strengths is arranger. So what you tend to do is keep things on track. Need to have some kind of order for things.
So that now we've got a big downside, James, because in preparation for this, both James and I have done the Strength Finder assessment, and now Patricia knows all sorts of stuff about us.
Yeah.
Well, it's worse than that, actually, because I'm just looking at my report here, and I'm pretty high. Number 6 of my strengths is arranger.
Yes, that's
so
right.
There's a bit of a problem there. Jimmy and I both arrangers. Unfortunately, I have noticed we like to arrange things slightly differently.
And
yes, which goes to the rest of our profiles, because apart from the fact that's pretty similar, we are almost completely opposite. I think we decided, didn't we?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll dig in. But you will find that as we go through this conversation, I will be picking up on things and I can't help but mention them to you, just to help you be more aware. This is how I do it with my clients. So yeah, this is how it works.
So to James's point, though, this is just really good common sense. So why do you think most organisations don't do it this way?
We are taught a certain way at school. We leave school, we go to college, we're taught a different way. University, you're taught slightly different. You go into work and there's a certain way that they do things. There's a certain way that they recruit. There's a certain way that they train. And society has told us that if you're hiring a project manager, they need the skills. And of course, most of us can obtain most skills. The difference is that when you obtain a skill, if it is your strength, then you will absolutely love and breathe, and you will just get so much fulfillment from that job. On the other hand, if you obtain a skill, you might get top marks in the exam. When you're applying that skill, of course you can do it, but because your love is not there for it, something missing. We spend approximately 90,000 hours. If we work from, 18 to retirement, spend 90,000, third of our life at work. We have to enjoy work. We've got to. Why would you not want to?
No, absolutely. And just to that point, it reminded me, I know this is going back in time, but when I came to choose what A-levels I did, I just chose the top 3 subjects I got the highest marks in. And I didn't choose subjects that I had any love for whatsoever. In fact, I actively didn't like the subjects I was doing.
That's the point.
And funny enough, when I came to do my A-levels, I didn't put in a lot of effort. I didn't do very well because I just didn't want to be doing this.
There you go. That's exactly the point.
And just to go to what I mentioned earlier, you have a process for people to look at and think and understand and leverage their strengths. Can you just go through it at a high level with us?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways you can do this. One, if you don't have a strengths report, I've got a way to do that. But if you have actually taken your Clifton strengths report, there's a really simple process, a 3-stage process that they can go through to really be able to articulate, to get more confident in that, to be able then to really own their strength and really direct their activities and what they want to do in life, personal and professional, with those strengths. And that process is called name it, claim it, aim it. So the name it element is, once you've got your report, you will see lots of amazing descriptions in there. We can talk about that a little bit later. You find language in that report that resonates with you. The name it element is, how can you now start describing your strengths? Because our strengths are typically things that we do really easily and we don't think about them. So therefore, we don't think they are strengths. So when people say to you, what are you good at? You go, I don't know. That's because you do all of this stuff so naturally. So the name it element is getting you to be able to confidently say, actually, I am good at arranging data. I am good at winning others over. I am good at turning complex things into simplistic language and ideas for people to consume. So that's how you would then learn to articulate your strengths. So that's your name it element.
Yeah.
So with the claim it element, it's recognizing where people have said, no, that's not good. You say, actually, this is the way I think. And actually, this is the value that way of thinking brings to a situation. So you've got to find ways to say, actually, no, that is good because this is the value it adds. Without that level of thinking, these are the problems that's going to come up. So that's the bit. Go on.
Sorry, and it's interesting. You've got our whole approach is to try and develop people into some sort of clone that everybody needs to be the same. But actually, what you're really talking about is diversity, isn't it? Because you're saying if everybody plays to their strengths, and you have a much more diverse workforce, but there's real power in that.
There's real power, and it's owning your difference. So the claiming element is own your difference. Stand proud in who you are. Show up as your authentic self. So we're all different. We all think differently. We all potentially get to the same outcomes, but we all do it in different ways. And we as individuals need to recognize that actually just because James does it this way and Jimmy does it this way, it doesn't mean that any of those are potentially wrong. They are just the way that they do it. And there'll be different situations that lean more on the way that you do it, James, different situations that work better for the way that you do it, Jimmy. The coaching element helps you understand how they all interplay with each other.
The show you're listening to right now brings you insights to help you improve performance and enjoyment of work.
It takes a long time to produce, but we think it's well worth it. It's all in the name of helping you getting the job done well.
All we ask in return is that you share the link to this show with someone that you think would benefit from it. And if you haven't already, click on follow the show wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. Anyway, let's get back to the show. Patricia, so you've got the name it, claim it. What's the third bit?
The aim it element is to actually lean into your strength. You need to find ways to intentionally make more use of them. So I work with a lot of individuals who are a bit stuck in their jobs. They don't like their work. They're not getting on with teammates, all that kind of thing. And I work with them to say, okay, so what are your strengths? How can you now use your strength, either if they're staying in the team, to get other people to understand you a little bit better? Or actually, if you're looking for a new job, looking for ways to intentionally use your strengths in that job. So rather than looking at the job title, rather than looking at just the activities, you're looking for, if you're someone if you're analytical and you love data and you can make amazing sense of data, or if you're strategic and you like big picture type things, you like to look at future, you can make sense of information, find the best course of action, then you want to find jobs that will use those, that will then make the job more fulfilling. So aiming it is about intentionally finding things where you can use your strength most.
And I think that's a very valid point. If I was to say, look back on what was my best job, I vividly remember, but of course it was the best job for me. That's the point. It wasn't the best job for everybody.
Exactly.
It's just being around pegging around hole.
Yes.
That's the key point to it.
Yeah.
We've got the process of identifying the strength, owning and being proud of the strength, and leveraging the strength.
Yeah.
Which is great if you've done the assessment, and we'll put a link in the show notes, because for a relatively modest cost, you can do that assessment.
Yes.
And it's well worth anyone having a look at that and doing that. But imagine you haven't done the assessment. You said that you've also got a process for people, anyone can use, even if they haven't done the strength assessment.
Yeah, so I run some free. I run a free masterclass, and within that masterclass, I've my own version of the name, claim, aim. So without using the strength assessment, because not everyone will want to go straight from strength assessment, but I want to give everybody the opportunity to start to identify their strengths. So I've got an Iowa method. So IOA. I use IOA.
Yeah.
And within the identifying your strengths or identifying your skills, within that, I use the STAR method. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you identify a situation, you've got what were you asked to do? So what was the task? What action did you take? And in the action, it's the what did you do and how did you do it? So that's in the A of the action. And then what was the results? So in the A of what you did, a lot of people focus on what you do. So this is what I did, and it's all very tangible. How you did it is harder to articulate because it's very intangible. It's all around behavior, attitude. So I use that method. So identify your skills, then own it, find the right language for you to say, actually, this is me. And I'm proud that this is me. I'm proud of the way that I think. That's the own it element of Iowa. And then the A is action, take action. So what action can you take now that you've identified how you do things? You've absolutely said, I acknowledge and I own what I'm doing. What action am I now going to take? So I've got this 3-step method that we can then walk through that actually gives them everything that they do there.
So the theory is pretty similar,
yes,
though, isn't it?
It is.
Underlying it, just identify your strengths, be proud of those strengths.
Yeah.
Don't see them as because they're different as anything to be ashamed of. And then how do you leverage that? And as we said, in preparation for this, we filled out the Clifton Strengths Assessment.
You did.
When I got my report, James and I had a conversation about it, and then Patricia, you and I had a conversation. Talking it through was incredibly useful.
Oh, good.
And I know you've got the expertise to be able to coach on this, but just generally talking it through, because when I looked here, I was like, I'm not sure that was me. Tell us what the big 4 themes were.
The 4 themes. So you do your strengths report. It hits out, if you like, 34 strengths where you're most dominant and you are least dominant. The 4 themes are strategic. Strategic is how you make sense of information. You've got relationship building, which is how you build relationships with others. You've got influencing, how you get others to do things. And execution is how you get things done. So those are the 4 domains, we call them, the 4 areas that all of these strengths fall into.
When I looked at them, it was quite helpful initially. I talked to James about it, and he could recognize them in me better than I could recognize them in myself. Our influence and relationship were the top ones, and strategic and execution were the bottom ones. And James pointed out that that's probably quite accurate, because I used to have other people around me to do the thinking and the doing.
Mm-hmm.
And actually I was more about the kind of influence and the relationships. The way I play to my strengths is around organizing things, getting things moving, building relationships and understanding, and getting people on board, as opposed to I'm the one who's got the answers and does all the thinking and figures out all the clever answers. That's, to your point though, I think I reacted to the fact that, well, I can do that if I have to.
That's right.
But actually, I can do that, but others do it way better than me. And it's not something that I necessarily enjoy doing.
Yeah. This is it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how did you find doing the assessments? Well, how did you find that process?
I was okay. I don't know. What do you think, James?
To be honest, the assessment is relatively straightforward. And actually, it's hardly surprising that when you get your results, they just tell you what you told it. So they tell you what you already know to be true. They just put it in a nice, robust framework. So it just becomes very clear. So I think it was a useful thing to do.
So James, when you read your report, you thought, actually, that's all pretty much what I know about myself.
So it wasn't anything particularly surprising. So it wasn't anything I disagreed with.
Yeah.
But it made
Okay.
it clear, I think is the way I would
Okay.
put it.
Okay.
So in his thing, does it say he's a self-aware know-it-all? Just
There's
Is that what his
a
profile
strength
says?
2
If
and
you just-
3.
Well, yeah, I was going to say self-aware actually, because a lot of people are not self-aware, and because they do these things so naturally, they think everybody thinks that way or everybody behaves that way. So therefore they don't know that what their difference is and how they stand out. So this is what this is all about. But if you are, some people are amazingly self-aware and they know that this is not for them, that is for them. Some people already have that, but others, this is right for those people who have lost sight of their brilliance,
Or maybe haven't been told what they're good at, frankly, to your point about being encouraged. I mean, I was very lucky in my 30s. It was pointed out to me that I wasn't great at execution. But once I realized that, then I just found some really strong project managers to work with who that was their bread and butter, and that's the way they saw the world. And once you start to look at that as a sort of yin and yang thing rather than they don't think right, then it's really, really powerful.
There's a number of project managers now, Patricia, who are rolling their eyes up about the fact that they've had to support James and I throughout our careers and make us look good.
But
they did a good job of it.
Oh,
They
well,
did do a good
that's
job of
it. This is about putting yourself together with people. But to your point, James, that there are managers and leaders, business owners who will believe that they do have to be brilliant at everything, and they try and do everything, and they micromanage because they think that they can do it better. You had the intelligence and the foresight to say, actually, I'm not good at that. I just need to find someone else who is. There are still a lot of people who think I'm not good at that. I have to get better at that in order to be seen as the best person that I can be.
Well, and arguably the strength of a manager is, I mean, I've had managers who have given me endless grief because I'm not great at execution.
Yeah.
But I've had really good managers who said, well, it's not your strength. You play with this person because they're really good at it.
There you go.
That, I mean, is the strength of the manager, isn't it?
Exactly.
So from looking at our strengths profiles,
Yeah.
Patricia, is there anything that you would call out we should be really thinking about or playing towards, or the risk of us working together?
The risk of you working.
The blind spots we might have, or the risks that we might have.
Just looking at you side by side here. I mean, the first thing that I notice actually is the relationship building element. How you connect with others, how you build relationships with others.
Yeah.
If you did not have any relationship building strength in your top 10, it doesn't mean that you do not connect with others. It means that you connect in different ways. So for both of you, so if I'm looking at James, in your top 5, you have relator as number 5, which is your first relationship building skill. Relator is people with that as one of their dominant strengths, means that, you will prefer to have deeper, more meaningful relationships with a few individuals rather than needing to have relationships with everybody around you. And relators can sometimes migrate to other relators, which if you're in a team situation, it can kind of start to look a bit cliquey. So team members looking in on that, but actually that's just how you build relationships. And you could potentially be building relationships with lots of people, but each one of those relationships will be quite deep. Whereas if I look at Jimmy, your first relationship building strength is developer, and you've got something called woo, which is winning others over underneath that. So with your developer strength, you connect with people by recognizing their potential and giving them, very patient with them in helping them to realize what they are good at. So this is the type of thing, this strengths thing is the type of thing you've probably been doing without using the language for a very long time, because you can see potential in others. This is where the mentoring element potentially comes in. You've probably done mentoring and coaching throughout your life without even realizing it.
It's really interesting, the winning others over point. I do have a vivid recollection of something about 10 years ago. We were working together on a team, and there were 5 or 6 of us killing ourselves to get some tasks done. And Jimmy wasn't bloody there. Where the bloody hell's Jimmy? You know, we're all pulling our tripes out trying to sort this out. And he strolls in about 5 o'clock. What the hell have you been doing? And to which his answer was, I've been polishing people's egos. But a very valid thing to do, and actually invaluable for the team. So yeah, I can see that. Interestingly, that's my second bottom one there, Jimmy. I'm not great at winning other people over. Or
Funny that. Never would notice.
No, never.
I was working with a team recently who didn't have many influencing strengths amongst the team. But I said, think about whether that matters or not to the work that you're doing at the moment. What is the team supposed to be doing? If they are not supposed to be influencing, then you're supposed to be executing, then actually you have the right strengths mix already. If you are supposed to be influencing, then actually who in your team does have the influencing skills, like winning others over? Who has those strengths that you can actually lean on? You don't need to have a mix of all of these strengths for a team to succeed.
And that's quite interesting, because what that's telling me then is if you run to a project, a big project, then actually you probably need a different mix of skills
Right.
at different parts of the project. So I come over all the strategic thinking. That's me. I think that's 3 or 4 of my top ones of that.
Yeah.
But that's all about understanding what's going on and getting ideas and seeing what the opportunities are. So you want me at the front end of a project. The last place you want me is the back end of a project where things need to get done.
Yes.
But understanding that and playing that through to your team and how you balance your team out is probably a very powerful thing to do.
Yeah.
And one of the risks, I think, you naturally gravitate to people that are very similar to you.
Yeah.
I think I was guilty of that early in my career. And then as I have matured and grown up a bit, I realized actually it's the differences that make us so much stronger and more powerful. And so it can mean in the moment, it's slightly more uncomfortable working with people who see things, it's like one of the things that's very high for me is activator and getting things moving. And as you said to me, Patricia, that you'll be great for getting some momentum and some impetus behind things, but watch out for the fact that not everyone's ready to move when you are.
Yeah.
And that's the dangers. You get people that all are the same. They all want to rush off and do things straight away without thinking things through properly. And it's that diversity of thinking that means that somebody else will be saying, well, hang on a minute, can we just close off some of these risks before we're moving?
Yeah.
I think your role as a team leader and thinking through how you construct your team, and also how do you make your team improve and how do you make your team deliver, all of this stuff around strength is massively invaluable, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, completely. 'Cause if you've got everyone in the execution space and no one in the strategic space, then you're always just working for today. The problem often comes for team leaders when they are moving from management to leadership, because they have a lot of strengths in the management space. They move to be a leader and they find it really difficult to make that transition. Now, what you might find if you look behind this data and look at their strengths is that they are great at executing. Leaders need to be the consultative types, the strategic thinker types, that they need to be more hands-off. Yeah. But if you've got strengths in the executing space and actually you really, really, really love that, then it's society that tells us we should be moving up, we should be progressing. But some people very, very happy in their manager roles. But something tells us we have to be more than whatever we're doing now. The winners in all of this are those people who go, I'm very happy at stacking shelves here, because that's what they love to do. They're using their strengths without realizing it. They don't want to be a store manager.
I was once in a job which I was loving doing, and there was a promotion on offer. And I said, no, I wasn't going to apply for the promotion just because I thought the work that I'd do if I was promoted isn't stuff I'm good at and isn't stuff I'd enjoy. So stick with what I'm doing well and I'm enjoying. I did the job that I really loved. So I ended up not applying for a promotion.
You were confident there, Jimmy, to say that, to recognize that and to acknowledge that. A lot of people just think,
it was hard.
It's hard.
Yeah, it was hard, because your ego tells you you've got to want to get promoted always. We're conditioned to want promotion,
Exactly.
want more money, want a new job title. Well, actually, like you said, Patricia, the winners are the people who do jobs that they really love
That's
and
right.
are great at.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But there's a cultural dimension to this then, because I think most organizations do, I used the word earlier, but they try and clone managers. They want people of a certain type. They're recruiting their own image. Whereas the real strength comes in having an organization whereby people, realize that you need diversity and what those differences are, and then are prepared to shout about what they are so that everybody knows it.
Mm-hmm.
And that in turn comes down to, I suppose, trust a lot, because Jimmy will trust me to do some things, but not other things. But we've worked together for Christ 30 years. But getting to that point quicker by being explicit about what your strengths are and what you don't enjoy doing, I think is really quite powerful.
And this is the reason why it's important to do this episode, is to share some of these thinking. I wish I'd thought years ago about, more consciously about playing to people's strengths. I wish I'd thought more consciously about the importance of diversity in a team. I wish I'd thought more consciously about getting teams performing well quicker. So hopefully been useful for people to think through some of those questions, because we heard from all of us the importance of playing to strengths in terms of delivering performance and enjoyment of work. Patricia, you talked to us about the kind of strengths assessment and also your really practical 3-step model to identify your strengths, name your strengths and be proud of your strengths, and then lean into your strengths and aim your strengths at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really, really helpful. So hopefully people got from that both the importance of it, but also the practical ways of doing that.
Yeah.
Assuming people want to delve deeper into this, Patricia, where would you point them? Where should they start?
So I run a masterclass, run that quite regularly. I will give you a link to that masterclass. And in that masterclass, I will teach them the Iowa model. So that is the model if they are not ready to take their strengths assessment yet.
Yeah.
I can also send to you a link to the strengths assessment if they want to do that. And as part of that, for listening to your podcast, we can also provide them with a free workbook that they can then use on the back of the strengths assessment to start working through the name it, claim it, aim it model we talked about as well.
Super. And we'll take those links and we'll put them on the show notes, which will be on the A Job Done Well website. So if people want to see that, that's just where you can find them.
Yeah.
So thank you, Patricia, for taking our initial discussions that we had over a year ago about strengths and actually really bring some structure and some practical tips to that. So I'm sure people have found it useful, and as James says, we'll make sure the links are all there so people can follow up with you in the future.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll no doubt speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Cheers now. We cover a whole host of topics on this podcast,
From purpose to corporate jargon.
but always focused on one thing: getting the job done well.
Easier said than done. So if you've got unhappy customers or employees, bosses or regulators breathing down your neck,
If your backlogs are out of control and your costs are spiraling, and that big IT transformation project that you've been promised just keeps failing to deliver,
we can help. If you need to improve your performance, your team's performance, or your organisation's, get in touch at jimmy@ajobdonewell.com.
or James at jobdonewell.com.